And the UN Security Council has discussed the humanitarian needs in Syria, hoping to renew a former resolution that allowed the UN to deliver aid to Syrians without obtaining permission from the government. And the members were given two briefs on the situation in Syria, which painted a bleak picture. Our correspondent Lorna Shatik has the report from New York.
The 15 members of the UN Security Council were being briefed on the renewal of Resolution 2191. Now, that was passed back in December 2014, and that is what allows the UN to deliver aid across the border into Syria without the specific permission of the Syrian government. Now, that aid is delivered over 4 particular crossing points going in from Turkey, from Iraq and from Jordan. But the resolution will need to be renewed if that aid is to continue being delivered. So that was what was being discussed. And as part of those discussions, there were 2 briefings given to the members. First of all, from the Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, and then from the High Commissioner for Refugees. The previous resolution did condemn, in particular, impediments to the delivery of aid to Syria, and it was interesting that both of these briefers did the same a year on. In particular, they gave some stats saying that only 1% of the besieged population of Syria were given any kind of food assistance. They did give some good news, saying that there was a cessation of hostilities agreed around the Homs area, which allowed for aid to be delivered for the first time since January this year, and they cited that as an example of what can be achieved when an agreement is reached. Both briefers as well also expressing their concern about what they called an escalation of the fighting, not only on the ground but also in the air. The skies, of course, above Syria now particularly crowded, given that Russia is also carrying out airstrikes in the country as well. And both briefers did express their concern about the effects of that escalation, saying in particular doctors and age groups seem to be being negatively affected, and if anything, the number of refugees has increased since those airstrikes began. They also said that in fact 5 international NGOs have suspended their operations inside Syria since late September as a result of that escalation. So a pretty bleak picture, and as a result of that, both briefers saying that the need for a negotiated diplomatic settlement along the lines of the one that is slowly being talked about and discussed is more urgent than ever. Lorna Shadik, CCTV, New York.